Okay, so now okay, so just to recap, security high level you can categorize into two: authentication and authorization. Authentication is a process of validating your username password. So we will create usernames in WebLogic first, okay, and these users will be inherited to middleware, and from there it will be inherited to your BI server. That is a repository. That is one line statement. So there are other methods. So in case you do not want to create users in WebLogic, so there are other methods that will be see later. But right now the security means authentication means user validation, okay, allowing somebody to come inside or not allowing to come inside. And the currently one approach we have seen, they are created users in WebLogic and then managing them that way. So once you have users created, by default every user will have only to access or to see the reports only. But once you log in, what type of permissions, okay, or roles you can permit him or allow him to start working on OBIEE. Whatever configuration you do specific to permissions, and that all comes under authorization. So in authorization, okay, for every user, we will have to give what kind of access or what kind of activities you can perform in OBIEE. So to give that access related or activity related permissions, so we have some default, okay, roles, okay, which is the list of consumer, author, administrator, repository manager, or system. These are all called system defined roles, which are access related. So once a user logs into the system, by default he will be given only consumer access, means only view the report only. Even that is also from the dashboard only. But in case you want to give him a development access, or if you want to give him a additional administration access, so we have to add every user to a different role. So that role assignment, where do we perform? The role assignment will be performed at middleware, enterprise manager. So users will come there, and then what kind of role you want to assign to a particular person, that will be done in the enterprise manager. Okay, so this way access related, once you log in OBIEE environment, what are the access you can have on the OBIEE, that will be defining based on the rules like this. Now so once you have given a user and then access related permissions, everything is well set. In the security we have a different topic which is called data and object level security. So what is object level security? For every individual user, okay, what type of objects you can have. So now we have given lot of restrictions, okay, and we have created users, some for HR, some for customer, and some for product. Whenever a user logs in, and he can develop a report or he may do anything, that will be decided based on the role, whether he is administrator or whether he is a developer, whether he is only view the report, that will be decided based on the roles, system defined roles. But once you log in, what are the subject areas he can view, or what are the objects he can access within the RPD, that will be decided by your object level permission setting. So where do we define this object level permissions? And this object level permission setting we will be creating or defining configuration in RPD. So when you go to RPD and identity manager, and you will get a list of users. For every user, what type of permissions you want to define, okay, that you will be defining in the object level security. So when you open RPD, so whenever you go to identity manager, you can see list of all users for every individual user. So now I have a user HR. Go here, and then for this user HR, what are the objects you want to allow him to see? So you have a presentation layer, lot of columns are there, and when you click on the permissions here, you can see this guy can access analytics and then head count, but he cannot access remaining all. If you want to add any new, okay, permissions or remove anything, you can just click here and then select that subject area, and then either access or deny or give a read permission. So this way, depending on that, you will be allowed to see your subject areas. For this guy, I have given a different permission. Okay, so I am giving only access on this particular revenue. I have not given access to on anyone. And in the same way for Asia, we have given permission only to see revenue only, but not on the other HR. We have not given it. We didn't save it or something. Okay. Okay, so this way you can define the object. Object means what you can give him to show to access, or what you cannot, okay, allow him to see. Next one is data. So once you give access on object, let's say I have an employee table. Okay, I am giving him an access on employee table, or I can give him access on columns of the employee table. Okay, that is all we can do. Generally, in case you are not doing in OBIEE, and this restrictions we can also define in databases also. So that is the reason for every table we can give access, okay, on a particular table to other users, or on a schema to other users. That we can do. Or within a table, say now I have an employee table, 10 columns are there. There are two people. I want to allow him to see only 3 columns, and I want to allow him to see only 4 columns, but table is one only. Generally, we will create a view. Okay, I will create a view, and in that I will include only 3 columns, and I will create another view. I will create only 4 columns, and I will give access on the view to this guy, and I will give access on this view to this guy, but I will not give access on the table. So that way, in a databases also will implement security. Now in the current advanced databases, I can also give permissions at the column level. I have 100 tables, 100 columns. I can tell these columns can be accessible to this user. Whenever he select a table, he will see only those columns. Whenever he select a table, okay, you will see only 4 columns which are permitted for him. That also we can define it. This all comes under object level security. Means keeping permissions and object. Object here is nothing but a table or a column. So in our case, what are the objects here? In presentation layer, everything is an object. Subject area or a table or a column. So you can select permissions on a column or a table or a subject area. So whenever he logs in, what he want to see, what you are allowed him to see, only you can give a permission for them, remaining all you can decline it. That is all object level security. What is data? So now I have a given, if you see, for one particular user, who is this guy? User America. Still take. So now I am trying to log in with user America. Okay, so when I go see here, I will access only one subject area because in the RPD I have restricted him. So I have given access on only revenue analysis, remaining all I have denied it. How to add? Maybe people who are not available yesterday, you can select them here and then that will be added here. Then you can just remove or enable. So that's why I am able to see only this particular subject area. In the subject area, you have given access on the subject area, so I can go and happily select everything. But now being this user as a regional manager of America, okay, is the America regional manager, is not okay, not Asia, is not belongs to Asia, is not belongs to Middle East. So since he is only belongs to America management, okay, is only dealing with America activities. So whenever you try to select any data from here, I want to allow him to see only America region related data. Okay, so whenever, so if a different person logs in, let's say for example, if a Asia user logs in, okay, he can see the revenue, but I want to allow him to see only Asia specific data only, and I don't want him to allow to see other regions data. So that all means he has the access on the objects here. We are not denying, but whenever he trying to select data from these particular tables and columns, okay, I want to allow him to only see some particular records, some particular data only, and that is called data level security. So I want to restrict him or allow him to see only some particular records or data. That is the data level security. So how do we implement? Go to the user. For this user, whenever you try to select any data, I want to allow him to see only this particular data. Whatever condition, I am giving condition where region equal to Americas. Okay, so every time whenever you create any report, by logging to the reports, and he will be permitted to see only data, this. What technically it does, it will always apply one where condition in a SQL, where region equal to America, so that he will be see only America data only. At the same time, whenever this guy logs in Asia, since he is a manager of the Asia, so I have given him a permission to see only APAC data and Asia Pacific data. Okay, so this way we can define data level security. Right now, if I go and select any report and logged in with America, if I create a report, I'm selecting region, and in this region, so we have not done anything. So I have selected this column, that's all, but it is able to see show only America data only. Okay, and if I click this, it will show within the America what are the countries, but it will not show other countries. You can go and make anything you want select, but everything you will get only from America only. And if I log in with a different user Asia, it will be showing only that Asia person. This is called data level security. Okay, of course we have done it, it is working fine, but we have some configuration challenges. What are those? If you want to manage it properly every day, so it is very quite possible that users will get transferred from one place to other place. Now he's in America, and maybe later he may transfer to Asia Pacific region, or somebody working in a HR department, now he may get transferred to other department. It is a very quite normal that the role movement can happen every time, anytime. So in all the time, whenever there is a role movement, so now he is working in Asia and he is got transferred to America. So I need to go and then immediately change it. Otherwise, you will still continue to see only America data only. So these are all every time it is a configuration point of view. I need to every time start making these changes. So that is the reason we have a different mechanism to make these changes done automatically without every time coming and changing. So that is we'll see in the next. Okay. So how we will do that? With the help of the variables. So that's why security will continue. This is only 50%. Okay. So now we are jumping onto a new topic, which is a variables. So mostly variables and security work together tightly. So now what is variable generally? If you see any normal traditional programming language, variable holds some value. Wherever, let's say I am writing some programming, okay, and I am writing some interest calculation program. So 20 places I want to calculate interest. To calculate interest, we need an interest percentage. So currently interest percentage 5. Okay, I am using this 5 in 20 places. Okay, and calculating what is the interest. So you use 5, but later the interest has been changed to 10. So you have used the 10 value, 5 value in 10 places. But if you want to change this 5 in 10 places, you will have to go and change this in all the places where you have used this. That is the reason we'll use a variable. When you use a variable, I'll say integer, okay, interest is 5. So I will use variable rather than using that 5 value. So whenever you want to change this value 5 to 10, I will change in one place, that is in a variable, so that everywhere it will be updated. That is generally concept of the variable. Here also same thing, but it will work in a different way. So in OBIEE, variables are very high level, 3. Okay, one is called repository variable, and session variables, and presentation. Depending on the requirement, these variables will behave differently, and within that, okay, again different categories. So first I am going to repository variable. So again, repository variables are two types. One is static and dynamic. And by looking at the name itself, you know what is static. Variable means a placeholder of a value, and static means, if you go for any programming language, what is static? Yeah, the value once you keep in a variable, if it is a static, it will never change it. Okay, reverse to that dynamic means it will change. Okay, so now to create a variable, go to repository, and then in the manage you will have something called variables section. So you can see, okay, repository and session, okay, but you will not see any presentation. Presentation variables will be created in a reports, not in the RPD. So that will presentation variables will be discussing in reporting classes, okay, but not in the repository. So now, since we are talking about the repository variables right now, so you will see three items here, new items. One is a static, dynamic, and initialization block. So you don't know initialization block right now. Okay, so we'll see what is the initialization block and all. Okay, to make it very simple, variable, okay, first we'll see how it is getting created. So to create any variable, so right now I am focusing on a static. Static means is a permanent value. Once you give a value, it will be there forever unless you go and change it. So to create a static variable, select it and say right click here and say new repository variable. Select this one, right click here and say new repository variable. Okay, now you can give any name. So when you can go and create a static repository variable, whenever you have some value, the value if you feel will never get changed. One of the best example is organization name. So you are running, you are developing a OBIEE for a particular company. So this company name, whatever is there, it will never change. Whereas you are developing for a company, so the company name will never get changed. Okay, because you are working for that company only. Okay, so just for naming convention purpose, I have given variable repository static, but the actual name is org name. Any name you can give, it's nothing wrong in this one. Okay, and selecting static, and then I am giving a name. What is that value? Okay, org name. So since it is a character, I am giving as a okay, since it is a character, okay, you can give a value in a single quote, okay, and then say okay. Then immediately you can see this variable. And in the same way, I am creating one more variable. So in which year your organization started. And this time I am giving a numerical and then I am selecting it. Okay, done. So your variables are created. So once you create a variable, you can use it publicly anywhere. Public means not out, within the OBIEE software, anywhere you can use it. So two ways, I'll show two ways how you can use it. So now have this report. Okay, and in this particular we have one, okay, branch details. Okay, so here I want to create a new column, and in this column I want to keep org name. What is this? I am creating a column in a physical BMM layer, and I am creating one more column here, org starting here. So we have created a variable that holds your organization name and also your organization starting here. So I want to, in the report, I want to use those columns. I want to, what is your organization name? I want to select it from the variable and all that I want to do. So it can be done in two ways. One of the ways, I am creating a column in BMM layer. You can select, you can create it anywhere. Okay, then to associate or to assign the variable value to this column variable, I am just double clicking this, go to column source, Okay, and since okay, this is the variable, I am going to logical calculation, and now whatever variables are created, so these variables will be visible for you here. If you go to expression editor, common expression editor only, and when you come here, what are the variables you have created, that will be visible here, and you can select it, double click. So now what is the formula to call a variable? Now value of your variable name. Okay, just remember it. And in this, sorry, starting here, this is. And in the same way, arg name, I am doing same thing for this. So I have two columns created, and these two columns I will select and then drag to where is this here? So it is the usage of. So now you'll understand what is variable and how you can use it. One simple exercise. So again I need to I don't know, when I click it, it is going somewhere. At least I will make this. Okay, since our user America doesn't have admin privilege, we cannot do it. So that's why generally you never have a admin privilege as a developer. Okay, only admin will do that every activity. Of course, you can use WebLogic user also, no problem. Let me use that. So I can see all if I use WebLogic. I will see only one if I log in with that user. So you can just go to this column and select it. Organization name, organization year. Okay, this is very simple. It is coming from, you have defined it there, and then it is coming from there to here. You can also choose other columns along with this. It will be like this. This is one way. The second way is, since we have just now seen the variable name and all that stuff, so this again we will be learning in the next section. What is the variable name right now? This is the variable name. So this is the second method of calling your variable. So now assume that you have a variable, but now you have not called the variable in BMM layer. You can also directly use those variables in report directly. Since we don't know reports, but still I am showing because you can remember it. Okay. So now I want to call what is the variable. Yeah. So you have to know the variable name. That's all. And when you know the variable, you can create one column here. So here also you will have a similar kind of formulas here. You can write it. When you come here it will show, in case you want to see a value of a particular variable, you can come here and then give your variable name. So we are directly calling the variable in the report. Say OK. Say OK. Done. Both are same. Either you can use this way or that way. Both are same exactly. Okay, fine. So this is the static variable. So now I want to create a variable which will give me what is the current date. So the meaning of the static, what is the meaning of the static? Once we give a variable name, it's not supposed to change. Okay, variable value should not change. So organization name will never change. Organization starting year. So when your organization started, it will never change. Okay. So those are the best examples for the static. But now I want to create a variable in that. I want to display what is the current year, or what is the current month, or what is the current date. So can I, if I create a static variable, if I give, let's say 2014, is it right or wrong? Wrong. So it will be right for next few months. When you go to the next year, it will still show 2014 only. If I give week name or date, today is 16th August. So if I keep 16th August, if I go tomorrow, that is wrong. So a value which will never change in your entire project or in entire lifetime, those values you can go for static. But if you are creating a variable where your value will keep changing, and that you cannot create in a static. So that is the reason we have a second option, which is a dynamic. So whenever your variable, if you feel that is going to change regularly, and that is your means dynamic, means dynamically your value. Now in this case, I have created a variable and put a organization name. I typed it and saved it, done. Since I don't need to change, I am done. But now if I create a variable which I am feeling okay will change every day. Let's say I am creating current date example. Today I will give it 19. Tomorrow I want to give 20. Okay, let's say 18, 16, 17, 18 like this. But every time if I am creating this variable which has to change every day, but who will change those values? I will create a variable and I will say 18, 16. Tomorrow it should be 17. But who will make this 17? Who will make this 18? If I give a year 2014, but who will change this 14 to 15? Okay, when you are cross into next year. Variable you are giving right now a value, saved it. But whenever you are thinking about a variable value should keep changing, but the big question is who will change it? And how will you change this? That is a topic here. So that is the reason in repository, okay, we have a person here called initialization block. Okay, so the duty of the initialization block is to associate or assign a value to your dynamic variable. So you have to choose when you want to change your variable values and how do you want to change. So that you have to pass that information, but initialization block will take care of that. When you want to change, how do you want to change, all that will be done by the initialization block. So that's why whenever you are creating a dynamic variable, initialization block is mandatory. So that is the one actually going to assign the value to your variable and will also change whenever you want. So that is the reason when you are creating a dynamic variable, first I am going to create a initialization block. So to create it, select it and say right click, say new initialization block. You can give any name here. So repository initialization blocks, I am giving a name, by name repository init block. Okay. So now it is asking first how frequently you want to change your value and when you want to start changing the value. So that information is asking here. So that's why it is asking start on. I want to start giving values to your, we have not created so far, but it is asking how frequently you want to change your variable value and when you want to start it. So I am giving current date, leave it. How frequently you want to change it. Okay. If you select interval 1, so for every 1 hour it will change the repository, dynamic repository variable value. And if you select minute, every minute, day. So right now, leave it whatever it is. Hour is okay. Okay. Now, then you tell me what is your variable and what value you want to keep and all that story you have to tell now. So that is the reason first I am going to data source. What is the data source means? What are the values you want to assign to a variable? Those values in OBIEE will get from a SQL. The only way in OBIEE how you can get the values and assign to variable using SQL only. So now what is that variable I am looking here currently is I want to get what is the current year, what is the current date and what is the current month. You can choose anything. So these are the 3 variables I want to create. So how can I get these values from a database? Okay, let's say for example, I want to get these values from a database. So happily you can write one SQL or you can keep these values in a table and then get those values from a database. So always OBIEE will use only SQL to get the values and also assign values to your variable. So that is the reason it is asking data source. So tell me, write your SQL and tell me where you want to execute this SQL to get the values for your variable. So right now it is asking when you say to execute any SQL we need a database information. So in your RPD we already have given one connection pool which has the username password. So we are making use of that connection pool here. Then means to execute any SQL we need a database username password. That's why I am using this connection pool. Then I am writing a SQL which will give me what are the values I am expecting. So before going to place here you can test it outside and keep it. So I am planning what? Select and if you want current date also you can select. Okay, so the first column is a month. So just I am giving some alias name only, and here I am giving so you write a SQL which will always give you what are the values. You can write it directly like this or you can select these values from a SQL. Any valid SQL which gives you output, this output will be assigned to a variable. So right now have three columns, three values are there. One is current month, current year and current date. Three are there. You can get this from a table from anywhere, but that should be in the form of SQL. Okay, and I am going to place over here. So from this SQL I will get three outputs. Say okay, or if you want you can test it. Okay, 1, 2, 3 are coming. So how many values we are getting now here? 3. So now out of these 3 values, which value you want to assign to which variable? So we have not created any variables so far here. So what values you want to assign to what variable? So that we have not given here. So that's why once you have the output here, in the next section we have a variables, target variables. So here I am going to create dynamic repository variables, and these values I want to assign to those variables. So I am going to create, I am clicking on this variables target, I am going here. So then here I am selecting new, variable name default initial. So when I say new, it is going to create dynamic. See, automatically it is going to dynamic only, not static. Okay, I am selecting dynamic, and then you give any variable name. So what is that variable I am planning to create right now? Here is variable, what is the first one? Month, year, date. Okay, and then what is the default value you want to give for that? I am giving a default value. Okay, so what is the default value here means, in case, okay, in some situations OBIEE is not picking the value from the SQL and assigning it, something failure. In that case, default value. Okay, when you define a variable, sometimes will integer x equal 10, that is the default value. Later you will change it. So in case if there is no value present for a variable, this default value will be used. And in the same way I am creating one more variable, variable year. Month, year, date. So now I have created 3 variables and I have given these values. But actually I don't want these values. These are all only default values. But what I want, for every variable, whatever we have, how many variables right now? 3. So for these variables, I want to get the value from this SQL output and then associate here. So whenever your initialization blocks executes, triggers or fires, okay, so it will take the output values from this particular SQL, then it will start assigning these values to this variable. Always first output, column output will go to first variable, second will go to second, third will go to third. So this is the order. Always the order, it will go by first output to first variable, second output to second. If you want to reorder the things here, you can still go here and say up and down. But always whatever, see, first value is going to be month. So ensure that this is the month. And the second one is year. So ensure that this is a year. And third one is a date. Okay, you ensure that this is the date. Say okay. And when you click test, now you can see it is not taking the variable values what I have typed it. It is taking from that SQL. So SQL give me August 2014 and 16th August 2014. So these values it is assigning to those variables and say OK. So now that we have created 3 variables and getting the value from a outside and then associating to this. So now this initialization block whatever I created, we are given a time to execute every 1 hour. So for every 1 hour this initialization block will fire executed. When I say it is executing means it is executing this SQL. Whatever output you get from this SQL, these values will be assigned to your variable. So now for next it will run for 1 hour, but you will not feel any different. But if it is running in the midnight 1 o'clock, you will see date change. Okay, and in case it is running on next month, so it will keep running. Whenever there is a change, that automatically will come to this variable. So you can decide whether you want to run it daily once or let's say 8 hours or 1 hour. So that you can choose it, depends on how frequently you want to change the values. So this one I can use it like I can start every time midnight 12 o'clock and then ask it to run every day 24 hours one time. So now once you create these variables, you can also see them that if you click on dynamic, you will see them. If you go to static, you can see them. Okay, so this is the variable creation. So now these variables I can directly, so now I'll just let me note this variable name, variable month. So now we know there are 2 ways I can use these variables. One way is just create a column here and then use it. So rather than creating and then using it, so this time I want to check directly in the report. So I am going to say new analysis, I am going to revenue. So in this column I will try to call them. So first I will call this column. So still it is repository, I am giving a value of variable name. Since it is a repository, the calling method is same. The only thing is since it is a dynamic, it will keep changing on a regular intervals. Okay, so now you keep running, you don't need to worry, let it run every day. If you come and see the report tomorrow, it will be automatically changed to the 17th. If you see it next month, it will be September. See in the next year too, so you don't need to change again. So since these variables are meant for changing on a regular intervals, you can. So only thing is when you are reading or when you are getting the values, I want to create a variable, okay, in a repository which will always tell me what is the highest salary in a table. Okay, so I want to create a variable and which will always tell me what is the current highest salary in an employee table. So what you can do, you can create a variable max salary, and in the SQL what should be there in the SQL? select maximum salary from employee. So whenever it executes, it will pick up that number and then it will keep it over here. You can tell it to run on every 1 hour or 1 day. So every time it will file, it will get new. So it will not be fixed every time. So these are all examples of the dynamic repository variable. Okay, static is fixed, dynamic is changing. Okay, so the next, anything, any variable, there is no restriction.
Like location, suppose some location dynamically we want to change those, some column value we want to dynamically. So we can design that
Anything you can change. So the data type, is it not a data type specific? Okay, anything you can create. It will recognize the data type automatically. Okay, so this is the array. Okay, after break we'll continue the session variables. Okay, and there is a difference from the repositories to session. We'll see that in the after break. Yeah, 10, 10, 15.